It is September 11th, 2024. This is the Nefio SIG 2 meeting. So I'll start the agenda today. We have some leftovers from previous weeks with just saying that we got a notice from Linux Foundation to solve our lack of recordings on YouTube, etc. They suggest we just move to LFX meetings. They're trying to set up a training session on Friday for the SIG chairs. We'll see if that happens. And yeah, we'll let everybody know as it moves forward. Hopefully it'll work well. If not, we can always go back to Google Meet. Sorry, Zoom. So I'll keep everybody updated on that. And the rest of the agenda, I thought, is Liam here? Let's see, Liam is not here. But regarding the POCs that I hoped we would work on, still don't have somebody to work on the Argo POC. For CubeNet, Isti is not here. I hope you'll have some time to work on it and update us. Liam and I at least are working on it. I've made good progress with Ansible. I think I've made life hard for myself in that I'm actually deploying Ansible Tower on Kubernetes. And there's just a lot of little intricacies with dealing with it there. But I basically have an execution environment that I create with Ansible Builder, a useful tool that inside can run the Python code that is needed to support the extra roles for the playbooks. So things are progressing a little slowly. Meanwhile, Liam is learning TKO. He is being adventurous and trying to run it on Mac, which I've never tried. So he's making some progress on that too. So any questions on that? By the way, people are free to talk about the agenda too and add last minute things to it as well. We can see if we can fit them in. Bal, I see you're here. So there was an issue we had dragging along a bit that both of us discussed that we should raise here is the future of the web UI. Right? To give some context, you know, we have a UI, but it's very buggy. We keep getting people who want to contribute to Nefio, and when we ask them what their skills are, they say they have skills in web development and wonder if they can help work on the web UI. And of course, we welcome, you know, any contributions, except that until we know the future of Porch, with us, would it be a good idea to invest there? And the other question is, well, now that we own Porch, we have the option of possibly rethinking how the web UI, what its goal is, and how it's really designed, right? Because right now it's meant as a plugin for kind of a Google management system. Maybe the UI should be different than what it is right now as well in terms of how it's organized. So yeah, Bal, I don't know if you want to add more to this, or we can open the discussion and see what people think.
Yeah, Tal, I think you captured it well. I think there are two main aspects to it. I think we are finding not many people using it. That's one thing. The other thing is we are not getting the developer traction to keep up with the rest of the product evolution. Obviously, everybody loves UI at a certain level, but do we have cycles? Do you have people to take it further as the product progresses? And also, not only that, and also the testing, right? So at this point of time, from a purely testing perspective, I don't think as a community we are doing anything on that one as well. So other essentially is, you know, like testing, documentation, keeping up with the rest of the portfolio. So I think we need to make a decision whether, at least in the documentation, we say that you know, the UI is not supported for this. At least we need to do that for the in a particular release if you are not tested. Otherwise, I think we'll see the comments in Slack channels, users trying to use it and complaining it's not working. So that's
I think we already say something about it's experimental status in the documentation.
Yeah, experimental is one. Yeah, and also for a particular release, I think we should say it's not been tested. We have to be very clear instead of saying experiment. I mean, for example, in R4, let's say we do not test anything with UI at all, then we should say that straight language. No, no. This R4 release, we have not tested anything with UI. That makes it clear, in my view. Experimental means people think, okay, it's been tested, it may work, but like it's not really uh, high quality. So, hey, Rado, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit about that. First of all, I think that we need a UI that one or the other because it lowers the kind of the effort to check out the product if somebody's interested. Second, it's just for like marketing purposes. It always looks better if you have something that's like colorful and you can click on it. Just I don't know, show it to management or whatever. So that's I guess that's the first thing. The second thing is I cannot speak really much to it. Kamil, which is here also on a call, he did an amazing job investigating the whole UI. So later probably can explain it better, but it's really not that tightly connected with Porch. So with not much effort, it can be used basically agnostically. Whatever you can run like a telnet to some port under it. But the strength of the UI that we have now, it has a lot of structures that are really Nephew related, implemented. And if you see for like in the commit history, a lot of effort went to it. It was like a half a year of really intensive work. So I don't think it's worth to abandon it, as it can be pretty easily switched to whatever's running underneath. It wasn't the focus for last releases. There were more important things. That's okay. But Kamil here started some effort, first of all, squashing all the security bugs there, and then to extend the editors component, among any others, because there was also a commit which were like tabs were changed and stuff like this. So he can talk in more detail about this.
Thank you, Radek. I think I can take it from here. Yeah, so as Radek just mentioned, I have been working, well, investigating and like doing some development on the web UI. And one reason for this is that, as Rado said, Samsung is quite interested in having this component, well, for demonstration capabilities and yeah, like showing to potential clients, and having UI is always this factor which lowers the entry threshold to any technology. And basically what this web UI right now is, I would say that, well, ballpark figure, maybe 80–90% of effort so far, mostly done when it was still part of KPT, was put into developing editors, resource editors in configuration packages, well, KPT, but this was extended to Nephew. So basically, I would say that most of the application is an UI for what you see is what you get, editing of these YAM resources. And some of these resources are like typical Kubernetes resources, like deployments, stuff like that. But there are also like editors for KPT functions. And well, during my introduction to this topic, and I started extending these capabilities with some editors for Nephew related, Nephew specific objects. Like for example, capacities, workload clusters, things like that. So basically, what it is right now, this web UI is like something which lets you view package revisions. Well, and this API that it uses is Porch-based. So basically, Porch works as this API delivery mechanism for viewing all of these resources and editing them, deleting them, basically like CRUD kind of interface. But basically, we can Porch is mostly like this delivery mechanism and something which provides like a general structure to the whole application. But actually, what is in this the heart of this solution are these editors. So whether we want to use Porch or whether we want to switch to something else, I would say that these editors can still be usable because basically this solution in most part is Porch agnostic, and we can even say that it is backstage agnostic, which is a framework which is used, but basically the most important dependency of this is React, which can be adapted to many different solutions. So I can't really speak much about the integration of this application. Well, in terms of like deployments, testing, probably you know much more about it, and I am aware of these issues which sometimes are mentioned also in Slack because yeah, I see them, and yeah, it's not really my area to respond to them sometimes. But yeah, but when it comes to the application itself, everything which has been built up to now, there's like a sizable base of code, and at least for the rest of the year, and if yeah, well, hopefully later, I'm going to be working on it if there's a will.
So Kamil, absolutely. I mean, this is so one of the reasons why we were even contemplating this, me and Tal, was there was a lack of participation from the community. First of all, thank you so much for your detailed description of the how it stands. And if we think, you know, if the community wants to have it, then community can commit to working on it. I mean, we are it's a great news. The agenda was here only mainly because, you know, in the R3 time frame, you know, we didn't have any traction from the UI perspective either in terms of testing or development. But Kamil, if you think you can help us there, it's really good. I mean, if somebody wants to work on it, somebody finds it important, I think it's we will not discourage that at all.
So I'll just add, you know, the question is really what to do with the design, right? Because at TKO, I also did a web UI and a TUI. I love TUI; it's very useful. And you know, one thing to consider, yes, I realize a lot of effort went into the editor in our current UI, but the question is that the design we even want? It seems strange to me to edit packages on the web. That's exactly, you know, the whole GitOps approach and everything. There are much better places to design these packages, I think, and than in a web UI. So, you know, including entire IDEs that you can run, you know, like Gitpod. Anyway, yeah, there's code there that could be salvaged in whatever we do in the future with a web UI, but I'm just very hesitant to say, let's go ahead with this if we're not 100% sure that we even want to continue with Porch. I know, Kamil, you said that it's not you. Rado said that the UI is not really built around Porch. Well, technologically maybe not, but the design of all the pages is very, very, you know, intricate to how Porch to Porch's low-level models, right? So whatever we do, if we switch to say Argo or Ansible, right, entirely different concepts would be there. It would be basically a complete redesign. And Ansible, for example, has its own UI, right? So there's something to work with there. Anyway, some thoughts to think about. Kamil, do you mind if Vish speaks now? His hand has been up for a while, and I apologize. I actually spoke.
Yeah.
I won't do that.
Thank you, Tal. So just wanted to say, at least at a minimum, these kind of concerns should be raised at in the status, for the SIG2 status. I feel that it should be called out so that the TSC is aware. Like now that the participation is less here on the UI, and we probably need more people, so that the TSC representatives can go reach out inside the companies and ask them, make them aware of it. So wanted to point it out. If one of the concern is that we have less participation on the web UI thing.
I think we mentioned it in the past, but we can raise it again.
The status,
but again, I think until we know what we want to do with the UI, it's maybe, pulling in resources, it might be too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Charles, my thing is, if at least for this release, right, if we R4, if we are going to, it looks like obviously nothing is going to change for R4 release if we are still deciding on end of year release. If Camel wants to work on that, it's fun, right? For now, I mean, if we change architecturally, if we go in a different direction, then obviously we can see how we can reuse the components.
I mean, it's hard. I can't tell other people what to do, right? But collectively, I wonder if there's a better use of our time. I think he put a lot of time already in analyzing it. He would have to put many more hours in, fixing bugs and adding test maintenance. If we're not going to continue with into R4, it might not be the best use of the time, in my opinion. Our idea, we hopefully will have a direction pretty soon, right? We're hoping in October to have at least an idea for the future of our core technology, if it's going to be Porch or something else. So, I'm at least encouraging us as a community to reach a decision, or at least boil it down to realistic options. And Samuel, you wanted to answer? I see Sana has her hand up.
Yeah, so I guess there are two topics. So regarding what you said about like this application structure being centered on Porch, yeah, this is basically true. But as I said, so the general structure of the application is like is a very minuscule, maybe not minuscule, but very small like percentage of code and effort. Yeah, so it's like I wouldn't worry that much about how right now everything is structured according to Porch principles and Porch resource types, because yeah, this is all like can be ignored like with comparison to the whole editor implementations. And yeah, I guess that the question whether this idea of editing inside of web UI is actually something very usable. Well, this is something which is certainly worth to be discussed. Right now, I'm doing this because, well, mostly because Samsung is seeing value in this, and this is somewhat like more familiar, more friendly face of Nephio, because it's sometimes it's really difficult to even like explain what Nephio actually is, and this is providing like some UI which is more explainable to people. And the other thing is that right now, when it comes to like contributions from potential other developers, it is not that easy. It is also something that I will be trying to work on, because right now even setting up development environment of this project is not something very easy when you want to have like a fully working development environment with this editing capability. So yeah, but I hope that well, I will also try to put in some work so that there is like it may be possible to open up this development a little bit more and make it more accessible for new developers to join in. So yeah, but this is how it looks from my perspective. And well, as I said, this right now my main or maybe even sole area of focus here, and this is how it looks. Thank you.
Really great. I'll add, to Rado's point, we have to think, who are the roles, who are the users of the UI? If it's managers, right? Or if is it, developers who will actually be editing packages through this UI, if that's the correct workflow for them, right? So there are lots of potential users for the UI too. Sana, you've had your hand up for a while, please.
Yes, I think I had I have a personal first-hand experience of actually seeing the user's behavior for a UI for a tool like this. So it depends on how we are looking for the evolution of the nephew, who are the target audience. So even if they are the target audience, you see how is the behavior of adoption of the public cloud. If the public cloud we are using maybe from marketplace and network function, and we are trying to deploy it, and we are doing some very ad hoc fast things, like somebody in business or marketing or management and product teams are trying to pull something together to show a quick POC to someone. At that time, maybe the UI is something friendly, useful for a very large number of audience who are not really hands-on on the code itself, maybe working with the GitOps tools or CI/CD tools. But if I tell you the reality of even having a product with all the UIs and all the APIs built into it, eventually the DevOps teams were 100% only using the backend APIs. They were not really interested in a web UI to basically include in the full. So back to your point, Tal, it really depends on the role and what we are doing with the product itself and the product vision. So generally, I've seen a behavior like from a lot of vendors, they make the use of automation extremely simplified and present that to the customers in a way that makes them feel that it's going to be just drag and drop for them in the GUI to drive something and to accomplish something. And for very small things, it's kind of a possibility, but then there is a very long list of integrations or the backend programs that they have to constantly add to it, which would be in this situation, for example, constant evolution of CRDs and the required Python code that has to go into the backend. But you're seeing that there is a skill set evolution happening across telcos right now, in which they are trying to take the ownership of a lot of that within their own teams. Look at Orange, look at ET, look at Telus, look at Telefonica. I have been working with all of them. So I'm thinking that the evolution of UI and the dependency on the UI is probably becoming smaller and smaller as we are becoming more DevOps friendly in our cultures.
Yeah, all very good points. Fikra, please go ahead. Meanwhile, I'm showing you a live demo of the TKO GUI just for fun, because I already have it running. Please, Fikra.
No, I just wanted to just congratulate Camille for adding. But to me, it's I'm slightly lazy and I like UIs, but I've been using it in my recent debugging and running the end-to-end test infra, and found it somewhat useful in terms of checking condition status on a package, or even updating a kept file via the UI to pull a different image from Docker Hub or whatever. I know all of that stuff you can do in the CLI, but it's just I have been using it, and I've also had some interest from others as to what's that, how do I get that, how do I run that, because it's as a high level kind of showcase tool. It is nice to have, I think. Just an opinion. But I think it's quite pluggable as well. If I'm not, I just had a look at Camille's recent PR, and to me it looks like it's quite easily pluggable, with different resource types.
Yeah, Camille, you have your hand up again, or is it from before?
Oh, sorry, it's from before.
Yeah. Yeah, people can argue whether saving time through a UI or a CLI is good. I'm giving you an example of the TUI as well, the same version of what we just saw, which I also really love. The huge advantage of TUIs is, I hope, pretty obvious. As long as you have SSH into a machine, you can run a TUI, and they can actually be really great. This one supports mouse clicks, and it feels very much like a web GUI, but probably much easier to access without all kinds of port forwarding and other things that web UIs require. Also more secure, right? It's all over SSH. So no need for certificates for TLS on HTTPS, etc. Anyway, huge fan of TUIs. And there's actually a way to possibly develop a TUI and a GUI together if you use kind of a model view controller design. The web, they can share the same models and just having different views. I did not do that, but it should be pretty easy. Anyway, I don't know if we have we're able to make decisions quite yet. As I said, I think what we could, part of the agenda today is also to talk about what to do in the summit, if more ideas, and I think we should definitely have a session there about the UI, and maybe hear also opinions from other people, how it import from users, right? We have Sana here, but no offense, Sana, right? You're one, that there might be other opinions from others on the importance of a web UI and what it can mean. I know from my experience working with carriers, they have so many web UIs, right? Because your orchestration system probably has lots of different, layers to it, right? Infrastructure management and from different cloud providers, and they have their own, all their control panels and dashboards. And then you have all these VNFMs, with their own UIs and sometimes multiple UIs. And you have databases and you have analytics platforms. I mean, just opening you'll have like 50 tabs open just easily, from a carrier just to like open all the UIs. And each UI is developed according to completely different technologies, right? And, they're not necessarily compatible. So whether that's like a good experience or useful, that's the question too, right? In isolation, a GUI could be very useful, but if it's part of a larger orchestration narrative, we always talk about our north, south, east, west integrations, right? It gets, you have to ask how useful it is. There's also something to be said, because we're 100% KRM, any kind of like nice KRM pane of glass above that allows you to drag and drop types, etc., would work for us as well. There might be some use in just building on an existing UI and seeing if that works, right? And again, if we're going to go to something like Argo or Ansible, they have their own UIs, and we can see about extending them. We're just really using them as it is, right, for our purposes. Anyway, those are all my thoughts. Are people thinking it could be a good idea to have a session on UI in the summit, a discussion session, brainstorming session?
Absolutely. Why not? That's a great idea. I think to answer to your thing, I was thinking, for the interim, if Kamil wants to work on this existing one, so be that. But in the summit, probably I don't know whether we'll be able to reach a discussion or the decision part. I think that will be dependent on the discussion on the porch itself, Tal. I think if we end up saying, we will not use porch at all, then obviously I think UI will also take its organic course of whatever technology we will end up using. Let's say we end up using Argo, right? Then what then? I just made an example. I made an extreme example. So some of this will depend on the underlying stuff, and other thing is, if you want to completely decouple it and then use the pieces like Kamil mentioned, what makes sense in a new UI, so be that. But I have a feeling for R4, if we are releasing end of year or beginning of January, nothing much is going to change in terms of the foundational aspects of the product. In which
I
case,
tend to agree. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
I think if Camel wants to work on that, I mean, so that is what I'm thinking at this point of time. Ladder.
Kamal, a quick question for Kamal. So I put in the agenda, right? Kamal, you're newer to the project, but we're organized in teams, and we have team leads. I think it makes sense to create just a separate team for UI. It might not have a lot on its table at the moment, but would you be willing to be the point of contact for us for UI, the team lead essentially for UI? This can change in the future, right? It's not a long-term commitment or anything. It's not a really official position. It's really
Okay.
yeah.
Team lead definitely seems like too hyped for what it is right now. But yeah, I can be a point of contact. It makes sense right now because probably I know the most about this topic when it comes to the internals. So yeah, go on.
Also, any chance you will be at the summit next month?
No, not a chance. But
okay, well, we can see maybe to participate over the web. I hope that will be possible. Although we had mixed experience with that in our past summits, but we can see.
Kamal, where are you based off of?
Excuse me, can you repeat?
Where are you based out of?
Poland. Samsung Poland. Yeah.
Samsung. Okay, you and Rado are together. Cool, nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Rado, your hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, like, whatever UI path will be chosen, if we just sticking with this, using whatever, or just writing something from ground up. Here in Samsung, we have some resources to help with that. We have also like a UX design team, which is also willing to help with like designing, pretty windows for it and stuff. And also the development team, part of which is coming. So just to keep this in mind.
Yeah, I am keeping it in mind. I think actually, whether or not we think it's important or not, it can add contribution to the project. As I said, just being chair, people keep emailing me or approaching me on Slack, people from various companies and even academics who say, hey, I want to contribute to Nefio. I'm a web designer. What can I do? Right? So it's like, even if it's not high on our priority list, just getting people involved and having stuff to do that ends up useful, right? That could be a good thing as well. So yeah, I think just having participation is a nice benefit.
Yeah, now you can send them to Kamil.
exactly.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have more items on the agenda. Any more to add to this, or we'll?
I think there's one important thing, Tal. I think that's why Sana is also here. We wanted to show something to TSC tomorrow, right? You remember we committed something. We'll put a slide or two in terms of what we want to do for R4. At least I know it's not solidified, but at least at a certain level. I think that's what we committed in the last TSC meeting, all the chairs, 3 of us. So I think that's why Sana is here, and the TSC meeting is tomorrow.
Yeah, Bala, thank you so much for bringing attention to this. And I also raised hands. Give me access to this document, and I'll review all the progress of like what's happening at the moment myself as well. And we have a very similar document which you all have already access to, RX scope and planning. If you go and take a peek into that document, I have done a little bit of like R4 tag on certain user stories, which is just a proposal at this stage, and we will present it as such. Later this afternoon, I'm going to get a version of the TSC presentation from Jennifer, because I'm going to be running the TSC call tomorrow. Kandan's not available for the first 30 minutes. And with this document and maybe our own RX scope and planning document, I will pull together some slides for the 3 of us to basically present. But that needs some structure. So if we have time in today's agenda, let's talk about that. What do we bring to those slides? And even if you have to link to this document, I think I'll create a link, and that would be just a natural way to present. But how do we want to do that?
Yeah, actually, I was hoping that to clean up items on our agenda that were remaining for a while, and next week really to focus the entire SIG2 session on, well, we got the ORAN user stories, we got a kind of an overview of them, and I really want us to dig in and start creating at least high-level tasks for implementing them. Because time is running short, actually, between working on the summit next month and December being a dead month pretty much because of the holidays. We do not have a lot of time, as
Right,
usual.
and Tol, I'm also looking for help from everyone right now for the ideas on the agenda for R4. I created a wiki page. I shared the link. I haven't received the topics yet, but I know that the topics are in your heads or maybe some proposals here and there in these documents. But later today, I have a brainstorming discussion with Kandan about the event logistics. And of course, we'll talk about having a remote participation possibility in that. So some high level things like that. But if I look at the agenda, we don't have proposed topics on that. So anyone who's interested in bringing something to that agenda, just dump in your ideas. I took two from the discussions today. A porch has to be a dedicated topic, which is of course a lot of discussion happening there. And Nephew Web UI could be another potential topic, and we can explore more on that. There are some topics, of course, from SIG architecture, which we'll incorporate, which I have the list already handy. But I'm just saying, let's start putting in something there.
Sana, I saw that we settled on October 15th. Do we have a location too? Is it going to be Mountain View?
I think it's
Sunnyvale.
Mountain View.
I think it's Sunnyvale.
Sunnyvale, yeah. Okay, sorry, yeah.
Sunnyvale.
Yeah.
So,
Is it the Google Office?
yes,
I mean, I
Google
guess it's a Google Office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Google Office. So a couple of points, Sana, on that one. Yeah, I think we must make looking at the sentiments from the ORAN meetings and also this meetings, and including speaking to Rado, etc. We have some important members of our community who may not be able to travel.
Right.
So I think it is not an option at this point of time. I think we have to make it happen, the virtual.
We will. Bala, that's on my head as well.
Yes, that's a one thing, because if we make that happen, then probably it's at this point of time, it's not an option, I would say. We have to make somehow that happen.
If we make it happen, agenda will evolve better, because there are people who want to volunteer to present, but they're not sure if they are able to travel or not.
Exactly.
So I think that's exactly what I told Kandan yesterday, and that's why we are having this meeting today.
Yes.
So that point's noted, Bala.
Thank you so much. So because if we do that, then I know we may have some presentation topics for ORAN, because Stephen and we are working on certain things. I think there'll be some topics for ORAN for sure, and Rado, and between Rado and myself, Rado wants to do something with the release stuff. We could present something for the release, me and Rado together, what we want to do for the release 4 processes, etc. I think probably remote participation is gonna solve a lot of this unknowns and some confusion around it. The second point for tomorrow's meeting, Sana, I think instead of presenting this, I mean, we can link this document, but maybe it's too much to consume for the TSC. I was thinking the spirit of Kandan's ask is, what are the high-level items that we want to do for our 4? So I think in its very simple form, it can be a single slide. And you could present, Sana, any of us present, and probably you could present there.
We can do that. I agree with you, Bala.
Yeah, I think single slide is maybe saying, we are going to do these aspects of ORAN, we are going to do these aspects of platform. And
platform evolution, a couple of user stories on ORAN. Maybe there is one user story from service assurance, tentative.
Yes.
If you go and take a peek into the RX scope and planning document, Bala, maybe we can do this offline, you, me, and Tol as well.
Yeah.
I have put the R4 tags on some user stories that I got the feedback from the work group leads yesterday.
Yeah.
Either we show all of them or we show some of them. I think that's what we have to agree on. And this one slide idea is perfect. And we can dig deeper into that if there are questions, and we can fetch these documents. I'll put the link on the slides if we have to go deeper. But I think that should be enough for the TSC level update.
Yeah. And then we can say this is what we are going to do from a security angle. This one we are going to do from the release angle. I think it's one slide is perfect. And then, like you said, I think I like your idea of putting the links there. If somebody wants to dig deep, they can dig deep.
So I hate to raise a meta issue, which I keep raising, but I'd like us all to think about this. Our release cadence is still not working. right? I think very obviously we're about to release R4, right? And we're still going to have a crunch, right? The way we seem to work, in our 6-month window, we tend to require 3 months for organizing and discussing and just grokking the designs that we need to do. And just the project management stuff would take another month. We end up having about a 2-month window every release when we actually do the development towards the release. I'm not saying there's not development happening. There's a lot of work happening on documentation, on platform, right? Some of the folk here, and on release. But those are ongoing stuff. They're not really dedicated to what we're trying to showcase in the releases. So, maybe where we're going to get in, with the new, I think, style of SIG1's work, where creating these very formalized user stories, we might get on good track for R5, right? And the R5 cadence could work well. But I think it's important to tell the TSC about this as well. And, the insistence was that the 6-month cadence, we need to keep it. But we should be honest about how well it's been working so far. And my opinion, and I think people would agree, has not been great. So Sana, please.
Yeah, Doyle, I think it's an ongoing problem, and it's like a very organic evolution of these two groups, how we have been working together. We have improved a lot, and we are still seeing some of that problem. In how do we choose user stories, and which ones do we choose, and what's the theme for the next release, and how do we focus direction? It's basically an exercise of making quick decisions and then rolling with it and then sticking to it. Because of the nature of the open source, we are like relying on a lot of decisions for more members to kind of voice their ideas into it, and we are not prescriptive. Not SIG1 is not prescriptive on we have to do these user stories, and SIG2 is kind of naturally following their own capabilities and what can be done in this amount of time with respect to the available number of developers. Is there something that we can ask TSC, I'm TSC as well, as in represented in that group, that we could have a prescriptive direction from TSC that we want to follow this theme next, and then we kind of naturally prioritize those user stories and follow that. If that could be an idea for us to kind of make decisions faster, quicker.
Yeah, I didn't want to discuss it too much now, just to kind of raise it as a general issue. But the issue is we'd like to be more agile, but for better or for worse, since SIG1 style right now is a picture-perfect version of waterfall, right? Creating a document, having everybody signing off on it, and it takes months to create that document with the user stories, right? I'm not saying that's a problem necessarily, but I'm saying that the rest of the SIGs, need to work around it, and I don't think we're well designed as a whole, the project, to do that effectively because of our release cadence, right? If we're having a waterfall approach, then maybe it should be kind of a tick-tock kind of phase. We have a design phase for 6 months and then a development phase for 6 months, something like that, right? But because all these things are working together, it's just not working well, right? We're not in sync. We're not in sync.
We are not, and we are still not comfortable about the deadlines, about how we transition the work between the SIGs. We have made significant amount of progress, but the flow is still not there. Do you also believe, Doll, that sometimes the students start working at the end of the exam? So is that a thing in SIG automation, that we work harder when there's a deadline on the head? Like, what if we are very...
Yeah, I mean, we do. We have some great people here who love burning the midnight oil, it seems. But I don't find it personally sustainable myself. I see it as my goal of protecting the SIG and the developers from crunch. My experience is just crunch is not sustainable, even if it only comes every few months.
I feel the reason why TSC has generally kept the 6 months cadence is to keep the ball rolling. Because if we have a fixed target in front of us and some releases are happening and press releases and all that, we kind of push ourselves harder to accomplish something towards the end.
I mean, we can decide to continue as we're doing, and as you said, it's evolving and can keep improving. I just wanted the TSC to know about this, and they won't be surprised by this, and maybe they'll feel a need to make a different decision. I mean, we've been we've been producing, right? It's not that it's completely breaking us, but it's just it feels very inefficient and sometimes stressful. Fikra, go
This
ahead.
will be one of the topics, yeah.
Yeah, again, just an opinion, but who's or devil's advocate, who's going to implement the user stories? If these user stories for OSC come in, who's going to implement them?
Yeah,
you know, and would our time? I know R3 didn't have a whole lot of new features, but would our time not be better spent on fixing what's there, rather than adding new features?
Well, you know what? That's a question for the TSC to define the priorities. I would imagine that they would want to focus on releasing stuff in R3 was a disappointing release in terms we didn't add user stories, really. Sorry, that's not true. We added OAI user stories. I apologize for that.
Oh yeah. But
Right.
is that a gauge of a successful project that we churn out user stories, or is it a useful product or a useful tool?
I think these are questions that I can't answer, right? I ideally it would be both, right? What's more important? What's the priority? To become production worthy, which means I think solving our core technology with ports and where we're going, or do we want to show the community that we can support more use cases? For example, we just had that presentation on transport networks, right? You know, would it be more impressive to show that we can support transport networks, or more impressive to show that our core technology is good? I think it's a chicken and the egg problem, right? On the one hand, people would be drawn to Nefio to see that it could be useful for them, and then also be drawn to it for its quality, that it's ready to rumble, which I think we would all agree we're very far from that.
For me, the latter would be high priority. You know, I think Vim spoke about USP before, you know, and people who want to use Nefio will look to how useful it is, you know, rather than how many bells it has. That's just my opinion.
That's a very valid opinion. Vish, go ahead. You had your hand up.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Vital. So just wondering, I mean, I just get the feeling that are some of us oversubscribed? Just asking the question out loud. I know one of the things we probably did better in R1 2023 was actually ask for people who participate, you know, how much time they're actually going to be spending, you know, what is their availability on average per week. I always get the feeling that why we land in the situation is probably because we underestimate and oversubscribe, you know, sort of just bringing that as a point of discussion to see, you know, does anybody else feel that way?
Inside SIG 2, or are you talking about
in general, right? I mean, we all seem to be very optimistic too, but sometimes we also need to be like, hey, I mean, saying no to certain things is also fine because we are looking at the big picture, right? And making sure, yeah. So just asking that question in general to see if anybody else feels that way. Across. So it's not just SIG 2 or SIG 1, it's across.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think we strike a good balance between when we want things, when we express our desires for Nefio, Nefio project, unlike say a project like ONAP, from the very start, the way Google founded it, we're lean and mean, right? This was supposed to be something small and focused and not boil the ocean, right? These are things that we all agreed upon when entering, and I think we've been pretty successful in doing that, right?
Okay.
We talk about integrations with other things, but honestly, we haven't done much work on that at all, right? You know, I think the closest we get is to the ORAN use cases, right? We don't really connect to other greater orchestration narratives, you know, which is a problem, I think. But we've so far been really focusing on our very specific thing of deploying network functions, right? With the complexities of infrastructure, et cetera. And with that, too, we keep arguing over what the scope should be and how far we should go. We've been erring on the side of saying no, actually, to most things, right?
Okay.
But that's how I see it. Our problem is the implementation, right? Getting from all these discussions, which could be very fruitful, to actually taking what we agreed upon and making it a reality, right? And that goes to Fikra's point, you know, which It's frustrating sometimes, right? We don't really achieve what we want in time, right? And I think part of the struggle, I honestly, I think, is that we've just been devoting so much time to the platform itself and the core technology. This is my personal opinion. I feel like it's just distracting us from doing the kind of work that we'd want to do. You know, Wim expressed this as well, right? You know, the idea being that, you know, if we take, say, CubeNet to handle all our technology, just as an example, then we can really focus on just implementing the user stories. There wouldn't be all these things with, you know, oh, we have to develop a UI, right? The big question for us is, do we want to develop an orchestrator, or do we want to glue together existing solutions for the use of telco? And sure, we might have to develop special components here and there, but we ended up developing really we ended up building our own orchestrator. And I keep asking, is that what the world really needs right now? Even if it's like an innovative and interesting orchestrator that does something else, it's non-trivial to create a production-ready orchestrator, right? I used to work for an orchestration company, right? Yeah, there are a lot of big questions that you're hinting at, Vish, here for what we're doing as a whole. But I think we can talk about those and still make progress. You know, I think we are making impressive releases in their own way, and we're showing more ability to cover more user stories, and also having our technology, you know, grow and improve, even if we change direction with that. So I think the biggest thing that we've done in the past 2 years with this project is create a really strong community and processes within the community. So I think with that in mind, we have the community machinery. This is a good place to decide on the technology itself and implement it. And that's worth its weight in gold. It's not easy to create a community like this, and all the people involved, Kandan and others, in terms of gathering and making it together, deserve a lot of credit for making this happen. Anyway, that might not be directly what you were asking for, Vish, but that's how I'm approaching the problem.
Yeah, for me, I was always thinking, like, you know, if I were in the TSC without knowing about Nephew, and from my past experience, I'd be like, hey, is there a cadence, or is the scope fixed for a release? You know, I would be always, right now, I'll be thinking, if I was at TSC, I'll be asking questions about R5. That's how I would be thinking.
Yeah, we're
is the
struggling
progress?
to get the TSC more involved all the time, and, you know, yeah. So now you have your hand up too?
Yes, Tal, quick comment on what we were discussing. I think the core functionality that the theme was last time, strengthening the platform, and talking about the features, I think it's really the egg and chicken problem that you mentioned, but the core functionality, the machinery has to be very strong, and it has to be designed, of course, in a way that we could start to plug into our service providers or telcos or enterprises, whoever is using Nephew, sooner. And the features can evolve organically by them and by anybody who's working on the community as well. The only reason the features are important at this stage for now is that the community is looking for visibility. We are looking for our releases to get attention, and when more service providers and more vendors see those features are getting attention, they probably would send volunteers to come and participate with us in the SIG automation, kind of get more developers. So that's the only advantage of having some story to the features or ORAN or the user stories at this point in time. But in reality, a strong open source project like this one has to follow what Kubernetes did, a very strong foundation on the core functionality, the machinery, which can be embraced sooner. And that will, of course, enable an organic growth and adoption by everyone. If that core machinery is not working, if for X number of features we started playing with it and we realize it's not production ready and it's not useful, I think that will backfire. And then that project will not get traction in open source like we would expect from it, more like ONAP.
Yeah, I agree, right? It's
I know I didn't give you the answer, but I said exactly what you said.
Well, I think you aligned well with what Fikar was saying, right? We need, at the end of the day, we're delivering technology and not just stories, right? And yeah, I'm worried about our capacity. We have to fine tune what we want to deliver with what we can deliver, right? Delivering an orchestrator, a production ready orchestrator, worries me, right? If it's a component within orchestration, I'm less worried, right? If we're using plugging into existing site inventory or something like that, or if we're building on Ansible Tower or Argo, right? We have products out there that are designed to deliver Kubernetes applications at scale, right? But we've innovated some interesting concepts. So with packages, KRM packages, I think that proved very, very effective for the kind of work we do in telco, right? So if we're able to bridge those gaps and deliver something based on mature and scalable and production-ready technology, Ansible Tower, right, especially is mature, I think then we might be on track to doing everything we want to do, right? So yeah, that is my primary focus, right, these days, to make sure that our core technology, that's my passion, at least, to make sure that we end this year, 2024, with a clear idea of what technology we want to base our future on, whether it's ours or a combination of ours and something else or entirely something else. And that we can actually deliver something. Please, Rado, we have a minute left, but you can have the final word.
Yeah, on unrelated, slightly unrelated question. Do we have any time frame for R4? I just want to know if I should start panic right now, or I got few more weeks.
Yeah,
January, beginning of January is what we are. As per the mandate.
Okay. So half panic. Okay.
Mid January is what we were discussing. Sorry.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, it's not a lot of time. So I put on the agenda for next week just a simple thing, kick off R4 planning. So the idea is just to open up the documents we have, mostly for ORAN. I think that's going to be the focus, and just think about which user stories we can actually implement in that time frame and start thinking about how we'd approach it. I think we need to do that.
Yeah, and as I told, I'm bringing the next SIG architecture meeting. I'm bringing the foundational aspects that we discussed for the platform.
Yeah.
That I'm bringing probably. I really hope we address it. But anyway, I'll bring it in the SIG architecture forum. I already brought it. I touch based it, but obviously we didn't have time because we were presenting a different story there. So I will bring it up again in the next call.
Excellent, thank you. And another quick announcement just for people who haven't seen it in this SIG. Alexei, the co-chair of SIG1, is stepping away. And SIG1 will be looking for a temporary co-chair. And actually, I think we have elections due for co-chairs next month.
I think we will not be looking at the temporary co-chair. We kind of live with just me, and then we'll focus on elections instead, because it's coming in next 1 month.
That makes sense to me. That's what I proposed to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you proposed that yourself.
Yeah, I did. I just didn't know if you agreed. Okay. So now we'll be SIG1 for at least another month. Alexei might be able to join and help, but just something to think about if people here want to take more leadership positions. That will be an open role, and think towards elections next month. If any of you would want to run as chair here or the other SIGs, we'll have a new reshuffling of everything, maybe. So with that in mind, I apologize for the background noise I have. People are calling right now. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And
thank you.
Thank you so much, Bala and all. I'll circle back with you guys on the Slack channel for a presentation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.